She thought she could play the game and win. She was so wrong. Ava always knew what she wanted: power, status, complete control over her life. A husband who adored her was a nice bonus, but never the end goal. She believed she could juggle lies and reality, pull the strings without anyone noticing, but secrets never stay buried, especially not in a city like New York. On her wedding day, her perfect world shattered with a single careless joke, a fleeting glance that changed everything. The husband who once worshipped her now watched with cold, calculated revenge. Friends who swore loyalty were the first to turn their backs. The powerful lovers she once controlled were no longer her assets. They were her downfall. Ava thought she was the mastermind, the one calling the shots. But now, the rules had changed, and she was the one trapped in a game she couldn't escape. Could she claw her way back, or was this her final descent? Hi, I'm Ava, 27, and I've been married for a grand total of 3 months. Most people think the start of marriage is all roses and champagne, but for me, it's been the opposite. Instead of a honeymoon phase, my marriage has been crashing and burning since day one, all thanks to what seemed like a harmless joke at our wedding. My friends, hyped up on excitement and maybe a few too many cosmos, made a stupid comment, and boom, my marriage was on shaky ground before it even began. Ethan and I, we'd been together forever, or so it felt. Our relationship was so solid, our co-workers at the ad agency joked we were the office couple goals. Yeah, Ethan and I worked at the same place, though I was VP and he was a senior account manager. It never bothered him. Not really. We met when he transferred from the LA office. I thought it was a career move, but turns out he wanted to be closer to his family back east. Family was always Ethan's #1. From the moment we started dating, he talked about settling down, kids, the whole 9 yards. Me? Family wasn't exactly on my vision board. My reluctance to commit is why we dated for 5 years before finally walking down the aisle at the plaza. Ethan was ready to put a ring on it way sooner, but I always had an excuse, something to push it off. Still, my feelings for him were real. From day one, I knew he was special, and he felt the same. We were a couple practically a week after we met. Total office romance cliché. And Ethan? He was the perfect boyfriend. Fresh flowers on my desk every Monday, replaced before they even thought about wilting. Late nights at the office. He'd stay with me or make sure I got a cab home safe. Considerate, thoughtful, the kind of guy women dream of. My friends, work friends, college friends, they all told me how lucky I was. Wished they had an Ethan in their lives. He was patient, kind, never lost his cool, even when I was being a total pain. He'd just try to soothe me, talk me down. So, what went wrong? How did this picture-perfect relationship go sideways so fast? Well, my friends knew something about me Ethan didn't. While he was everything a woman should want, I'd always been drawn to dominant, assertive men, guys who took charge. Ethan wasn't that. When I met him, I was smitten, sure, but deep down, there was this other craving. Before Ethan, I'd dated my share of controlling guys, the kind who made my life a living hell. Ethan's gentle nature was a breath of fresh air, a welcome change. But as time went on, that gentleness started to grate on me. Ethan never pushed, never demanded. He always wanted to talk things out, compromise. Great for teamwork at the agency, not so much in my personal life. I wanted him to be more assertive, take the lead. Even in bed, he was all about pleasing me, but his soft touch left me unfulfilled. I hinted, I practically spelled it out, wanting him to be more dominant, but he stayed the same sweet, patient guy. I confided in my friends, told them I was frustrated. They brushed it off, said Ethan was perfect, I was crazy. But my dissatisfaction grew. I started pulling away, especially in the bedroom, withholding intimacy, hoping he'd fight for my attention, for me. But when I said I wasn't in the mood, he just respected it. Didn't push, not even after a week. I knew he was struggling, his desire was obvious, but he never crossed that line. It just made me angrier. I shut him out completely, refused to tell him what was wrong, even though he kept asking. Then, I got promoted. VP of Marketing. Everyone thought it would cause friction between Ethan and me, jealousy, resentment. Instead, Ethan did the most unexpected thing. He threw me a party, booked a table at Per Se, the works. After dinner, he surprised me with a Birkin bag and Manolos for my first day in the new role. He was genuinely happy for me. For a second, I actually felt guilty, because the truth was, I hadn't earned that promotion on merit alone. I'd wanted that VP title for ages, and when the opportunity came up, I did whatever it took to get it. And by whatever it took, I mean exactly that. I slept with my boss, David, to secure the position. The promotion was supposed to be Ethan's. He deserved it. But for once, I put myself first. I took what I wanted. Ethan never knew. He had no idea he'd been recommended for the job, no clue I'd stolen it from him. Initially, I thought it would be a one-time thing, a single indiscretion, a means to an end. But keeping a position you got through deception? It takes work. To hide the truth, I had to keep David happy, professionally and personally. There were perks, sure. My career was solid, my status untouchable. But there were complications. I started enjoying the side action with David. It was a thrill, a rush, something Ethan didn't give me. The lies were the hardest part, a constant web of deceit to keep Ethan in the dark. But secrets, especially in a city like this, rarely stay buried. One night I was reckless. Girls' night at Emily's penthouse overlooking Central Park. Too much rosé, loosened lips, and confessions started flowing. Mine was the bomb drop. My friends were stunned. Once the initial shock wore off, the questions started. Who was better, David or Ethan? Stupid girl talk. I made them swear to secrecy, especially about Ethan. I trusted them. I shouldn't have. I should have been watching Olivia. That night, she barely touched her drink, just sipped enough to look like she was part of it, then left early, claiming a big presentation the next morning. At the time, I didn't think twice. Now I see it, the disgust in her eyes, the anger she tried to hide. Back then, I was clueless. Olivia had always been in love with Ethan. They worked together, hours on end, collaborating on projects. I'd dismissed her crush as harmless office flirtation. If I'd known her feelings ran deeper, I would have kept my mouth shut. But I was blind. I thought my secret was safe, so I kept up the affair with David, reveling in my double life. The contrast between the two men was intoxicating. David, dominant and insatiable. Ethan, gentle and reserved. David was rough, commanding, selfish in bed, which, weirdly, turned me on. Ethan was soft-spoken, considerate, hated even a hint of sarcasm. Their differences were addictive. David used business trips as an excuse to sneak away with me, pre-arranged hotel rooms in the meatpacking district, where we indulged in raw, unrestrained passion. He craved control, I craved submission. Perfect balance. No strings, no expectations of commitment. David knew about Ethan, actually preferred it that way. No drama, just desire. Ethan, meanwhile, was blissfully unaware. Then, a month into my arrangement with David, I met Chase, David's best friend. Someone I'd never met because he'd been in London. When he got back, he started hanging with David, and suddenly, with me. From the start, the attraction was electric. He made it obvious, even when David, in his usual blunt way, dismissed me as just a girl he was sleeping with. Chase didn't care. It irritated me how easily David reduced me to nothing, but I played along. If I thought David was dominant, Chase was on another level. Chase exuded control. He dictated everything, our interactions, our conversations, our secret meetings. And I was drawn to it. He knew it. I knew it. It was inevitable. Soon, we were sneaking around behind David's back. Sleeping with Chase was like nothing I'd ever experienced. He didn't just take charge, he demanded it. He pushed my limits, introduced me to restraint, discipline, control in ways I hadn't imagined. And I craved every second. He thrived on hearing me beg, on leaving my skin flushed and tingling. Every new intensity just fueled my hunger for him. The more time I spent with Chase, the less I wanted Ethan. Eventually, I stopped sleeping with Ethan altogether. I didn't tell my friends about Chase. They knew about David, but even I had a limit to their judgment. Balancing 3 men felt like power, made me feel desired, irresistible, untouchable. I basked in the thrill, ignoring the consequences. I buried the guilt, convinced myself it was temporary, no one needed to know. I was careful, or so I thought, but secrets unravel, and I was playing a high-stakes game. The affair with Chase didn't last. His demands on my time, my body, became overwhelming. Managing 3 relationships was too much. What had been exhilarating became a burden. I had to cut someone loose. It couldn't be Ethan. My love for him, buried deep down, was still there. And it couldn't be David. He was the reason I had my corner office in City View. That left Chase, the one person who offered nothing beyond physical gratification. When I broke it off with Chase, he blew up. Temper flared. He threatened to tell David everything if I walked away, but I knew better. David's trust was crucial to Chase, professionally and personally. He wouldn't risk that. So I called his bluff, put distance between us. Eventually, he saw I wasn't changing my mind and backed off. With Chase gone, I could breathe again. Back to balancing just 2 men, a routine I'd perfected. Deceiving Ethan was effortless. Late nights at the office? Blame it on a campaign launch. Meanwhile, I was with David, keeping up our secret routine. For a while, everything ran smoothly, but as time passed, the weight of my double life grew heavier, pressing down on me in ways I hadn't anticipated. Ethan, ever patient, ever kind, never suspected a thing. He gave me no reason to doubt his devotion. At first, guilt didn't touch me. I'd justified my actions so thoroughly, remorse never had a chance. But then, something happened. It was a charity gala hosted by Ethan's mother, a well-known philanthropist. The cause didn't matter to me, but it was an excuse to wear a designer dress and mingle with the city's elite. Ethan stayed by my side all night, but it didn't stop a wave of admirers, mostly women, from vying for his attention. They barely acknowledged me, like I was just arm candy. One woman leaned in close, murmured, "You're lucky. If I ever had a shot with Ethan, I wouldn't hesitate." Her words hit me. For the first time, I saw Ethan through their eyes, as if I'd been blind to his worth until someone else pointed it out. And with that realization came an emotion I hadn't expected. Jealousy. I'd been unfaithful for months without a flicker of guilt. But the thought of someone else wanting Ethan made me feel territorial. It forced me to confront the unfairness of what I'd done to him. Determined to set things right, I decided to end things with David. But walking away was harder than I thought. David wasn't ready to let go. Unlike Chase, he had little to lose, and knew I had everything at stake. He wielded that knowledge like a weapon, made it clear cutting ties wouldn't be easy. I couldn't call his bluff again. I was trapped. Then, a plan formed in my mind. Marriage. A wedding ring, a public commitment, would be an impenetrable wall between me and David. Who would mess with a married woman? Marriage had never been a priority, but I started subtly steering Ethan toward it. I talked about engagements with fake excitement, made up stories about friends planning their weddings, filled our movie nights with rom-coms with proposal scenes. Every conversation seemed to circle back to commitment. My efforts worked. On my birthday, at a surprise dinner with friends and family at the Rainbow Room, Ethan proposed. It was beautiful, flawless. That night, lying in bed, staring at the Tiffany ring, I felt an unexpected warmth. What started as a calculated escape now felt like something I genuinely wanted. I did love Ethan. I wanted a life with him, but things didn't go as planned. Shortly after our engagement, Ethan got a new job offer, a tech startup in Silicon Alley. Doubled his salary. Thrilled, he resigned from the agency. I was proud, but it didn't stop me from making one last reckless mistake. David was furious about the engagement, though he kept it bottled up at first. Instead, he claimed me one last time, made me take off my ring in his penthouse, as if that small act could undo my betrayal. 3 weeks before the wedding, bachelorette party weekend in the Hamptons. Just my closest friends, like always. Light-hearted, laughter, easy conversation. Until one of them casually asked if I was still seeing David. When I nodded, they cheered, clapped, amused by my ability to juggle a fiancé and a lover. Only Olivia was silent. No admiration, no amusement. She just watched, quietly taking it all in. Later, when I asked her to be my maid of honor, she refused. Flimsy excuses. Her rejection stung, but I quickly replaced her with another bridesmaid. As the wedding got closer, I noticed a change in Ethan. He called less. His usual goodnight texts stopped, and when we talked, he seemed distant, detached. Even in person, his mind seemed elsewhere. I brushed it off as wedding jitters, convinced it would all go back to normal after the ceremony. I should have paid attention. The night before the wedding, bridal suite at the Pierre. My friends and I, champagne flowing, eager to celebrate my last hours of singlehood. I had no idea everything I'd worked for was already crumbling. Laughter, music, games that stretched late into the night. One by one, exhaustion took over. My friends crashed, ready for my big day. Everyone except me. I had one last appointment with David. A final goodbye to close that chapter. I'd agreed, knowing it would be the last time. David had booked a room down the hall, easy for me to slip away unnoticed once the suite fell silent. I quietly made my way to him. Hours melted away as we clung to each other, tangled in a final embrace. When he finally let me go, I returned to my room, lied in bed, told myself it was over. No more secrets, no more lies, no more carefully crafted alibis. Finally I was free, or so I believed. Wedding morning. Everything as expected. Smiles, tears from my parents, eager guests waiting at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Yet something felt off. Ethan, my groom, stood at the altar, but the joy that should have lit up his face was missing. I pushed it aside. Nerves, I told myself. But when it was time for our vows, his voice was heavy, like a condemned man. And when it was time for our first kiss as husband and wife, he hesitated. Instead of the passionate kiss I'd imagined, he barely brushed my cheek. First crack in my perfect day. A silent warning. Something was wrong. I felt it, deep down. But I refused to let doubt ruin my wedding, forced my worries aside, threw myself into the celebration. My friends made sure the reception at the Mandarin Oriental was a party. I laughed, I danced, I played the happy bride. Ethan, though, refused to dance with me, not even our first dance. Frustrating, but I'd deal with it later. I wasn't going to let his mood ruin my day. Then, in their drunken fun, my friends made a joke. Emily, always the one to speak without thinking, blurted it out first. "Ethan looks like a beta male, clueless to the real alpha in the room." Laughter erupted. They had no idea I'd ended things with David, didn't understand the weight of their words. I should have turned around then. Maybe I would have seen Ethan standing there, just behind us, hearing every word. But I didn't. And he said nothing. Not then. He waited. That night, back in the penthouse suite at the Baccarat Hotel, alone, I confronted him. Demanded to know why he'd been so distant, why he'd acted like a stranger all day. Silence. He just stared at me, expression unreadable. Then, when I ran out of words, he spoke. He knew. Everything. He knew about David and me, how I'd used my affair to steal a promotion that should have been his. He knew about the others, the betrayals, the lies. He even knew about the night before our wedding, how I'd snuck into David's hotel room. I wanted to deny it all, feign ignorance, but I couldn't. Every accusation was the truth. I had no defense. Then he told me why he'd gone through with the wedding. Not love, not commitment, but because canceling it would have disgraced his family, and because he wanted me to suffer. This wasn't a marriage, it was revenge. Piece by piece, he vowed to destroy me. The wedding was just the beginning. I was speechless. Begged him to listen, but my pleas meant nothing. Contempt was all I saw in his eyes before he turned and walked out, leaving me alone on our wedding night. He didn't come back until morning, and in the days that followed, he ignored me. My desperate attempts to seduce him were met with icy indifference. Then I understood. Ethan would never forgive me. What I couldn't grasp was how he'd found out everything. I'd been careful, meticulous. How had he pieced it all together? Even Chase? The answer came a month later. Olivia, unexpected visitor, ringing the bell at our Tribeca loft. I assumed she was there to see me. Awkward wedding apology, maybe? But she made her intentions clear. She was there for Ethan. Before I could react, she leaned in and kissed him. Right in front of me. In that moment, everything clicked. Olivia. She was the one who'd exposed me. Handed Ethan every detail, and from there, he'd done the rest. unraveled every lie, every betrayal. From that day on, Ethan and Olivia were inseparable. They flaunted it, parading around like I was invisible, even though I was still legally his wife. And the worst part? I was powerless. I couldn't fight back without exposing my own sins. 3 months. 3 months of this miserable marriage, and I've known no peace. I miss Ethan. Every time I see him with Olivia, it's like another part of me breaks. I regret everything. Selfish, reckless, cruel. I know, but I want to fix it. I need to fix it. So, please, what can I do? How can I make this right? I'm exhausted, desperate. Update. Weeks have passed since my last post, and things have only gotten worse. Seeking advice online about winning Ethan back? Just brought more scorn. No one thinks I deserve a second chance. Everyone says I've earned my misery. And they're right. But knowing that doesn't make the pain any easier. The regret doesn't fade. The ache doesn't subside. And Ethan? He's not content with just being with Olivia. He's dragging me down deeper. Somehow he got his hands on photos of David and me, then chastened me, sent them straight to my office at Madison Avenue. I walked in that morning, head held high, trying to keep up the illusion that my life was still intact. No one needed to know the truth, the cracks in my marriage, everything falling apart. But the second I stepped onto the floor, I felt it. The shift, the weight of their stares, whispered conversations that stopped as I walked past, ignored it. Didn't realize the bomb was about to drop. Then summoned to a meeting with the board. The moment I walked into the conference room, they laid it out. The photos, spread across the mahogany table, irrefutable, stripped me bare. No defense. Voice failed me. Nothing to argue. No way to justify what they'd seen. They didn't fire me outright, maybe for appearances, but they made it clear. Resignation letter, already drafted, just needed my signature. Cornered, no escape, I signed. No alternative, returned to the loft, another nightmare. My family, waiting in the living room. Expressions unreadable. Until my mother stood. Fury radiating off her, lunged at me, hand raised, only stopped by my sister grabbing her arm. Trembling with rage, she pointed, voice shaking with disgust. If I ever came near her family again, she swore she'd do something she couldn't take back. My siblings ushered her away. Not one of them even looked at me. Silence, thicker than words. Shame, revulsion, hanging in the air. If my own blood had turned on me, Ethan's family was worse. His sisters delivered their ultimatum without hesitation. I had to leave, or they'd throw me out themselves. His mother, barely contained contempt, practically spat in my direction. I was untouchable, a disgrace in everyone's eyes. And to complete my humiliation, Olivia was there, watching. Quiet triumph. She'd won. My life crumbled to dust before her eyes, and she relished every second. Ethan wasted no time. Divorce papers arrived the day I moved out. No delays, no hesitation. Severed all ties with surgical precision. Made sure I felt every ounce of suffering. And he succeeded. Now all that's left are shattered pieces of the life I knew, slipping through my fingers like sand, beyond repair, and I have no one to blame but myself. I'm alone, in a tiny studio in Queens, paper-thin walls, noise from the street all night, neighbors banging on the door, complaining about my sobbing. I keep asking myself, how could I have been so blind? What made me think I was invincible? I can't even pretend this was some cruel twist of fate. This was me, my selfishness, my recklessness, architect of my own ruin, and now, truly alone. Friends who laughed with me, who joked about David and Ethan, vanished. Dodged calls at first, then weak excuses, canceled plans. Lies, I realized later, when I found out the gatherings still happened. Just without me. Eventually they stopped pretending. I've become nothing. Failure, disgrace, and there's no undoing it. Even if I wanted to fix things, tried to, it's too late. Everything's burned. All that's left is ash. The life I had is gone. If I had one wish, it wouldn't be a second chance. It would be to rewind time. Maybe then, I wouldn't be sitting in this cramped room, drowning in loneliness. Maybe I'd still be in my loft with Ethan, planning our future, dreaming of a family. Maybe I wouldn't be sobbing myself to sleep every night. What ifs haunt me. What if I'd stayed faithful? What if I'd earned my promotion honestly? What if I'd never gotten involved with David? Or Chase? What if I'd valued Ethan's love instead of taking it for granted? But regret can't rewrite the past. Damage is done. No redemption. No erasing the pain I caused. I deserve this suffering. Every agonizing second. And the most terrifying thought? I don't know if it will ever end. I'm drained, shattered, directionless, drowning in remorse. Does this pain ever fade? Or is this my sentence? My eternity? Update. Hello again. Likely my last post. Even the angry, condemning responses felt like acknowledgement. More than I get in real life, where I'm a ghost. Nothing's changed. Divorce finalized after 6 months of marriage. Isolation still clings like a second skin. Once, I feared this loneliness would never end. Now I know it won't. Ethan made sure of that. Hindsight is cruel. Perfect clarity, but too late to fix anything. I don't just see where I went wrong. I see everything I should never have done. If I had one wish, not a second chance, but a reset. Erase every selfish, reckless decision before it ruined me. But no resets, no fresh starts. Just relentless consequences, stretching ahead. Once, I imagined a future with Ethan. Devoted wife, cherished, loved. We'd share everything, travel, build a family, kids with his eyes. Maybe pregnant now, waiting for our first, Ethan by my side. That dream, shattered, beyond repair. Ethan will never forgive me, never forget. And now he has Olivia, no secret. Welcomed by our friends. While I'm cast aside, invisible, forgotten. They fit, like destiny. Olivia would never betray Ethan, not in a million years. She's adored him forever, waited patiently. Now she has him, she'll hold on tight. Love him the way I failed to. Honor him. Never break his heart like I did. If only I'd appreciated him. Seen him through her eyes. Recognized the extraordinary man he was. Never strayed. Now, all that's left is disgrace. Suffocating regret. Life devoid of meaning. I was the architect of my downfall. Foolishly discarded happiness for selfish ambition, success, power, influence, hollow, meaningless pursuits. I was shallow, always comparing Ethan to others, wanting traits he didn't have, instead of valuing what made him irreplaceable. blind to the truth. His differences were remarkable. Instead of treasuring that, I chased emptiness. My misguided desires paved the road to ruin, downfall, no return. All that remains is sorrow, relentless self-hatred. This is my life now. Lifetime of regret. Haunted by choices. Could have chosen differently. Never another Ethan. No man will ever look at me with love again. Future dark. Desolate. Longing. Remorse. Weight of mistakes crushing me. Fear the worst is yet to come. Wouldn't wish this fate on anyone. Even if you hate me, learn from my failure. Heed warnings. Save yourself before it's too late. Believe me, I'm paying the price. Learning harsh lessons excruciatingly. Let my downfall be your cautionary tale. Save yourself before it's too late. Goodbye. Our story ends here. Ava believed she could manipulate, betray, escape consequences. Lies were tools, honesty, weakness. But reality always catches up. Betrayed love turns to resentment. Deceived souls seek justice. She lost everything: love, career, family, respect. Not unlucky. Self-made downfall. Biggest lesson: cherish true love. Don't trade loyalty for fleeting desires. Truth always comes out. Regret is all that's left. Some build, others destroy. Choose wisely. What do you think of Ava's story? Share your thoughts. And remember, may the Force be with you. See you soon.